I stood quietly in the shadows at the back of the Army Ranger graduation ceremony, dressed in plain civilian clothes, watching my brother receive his honor badge, while my family thought I was the biggest failure they'd ever raised. But then the commanding general spotted me, his eyes widening in shock, and my 15-year secret exploded like a timed bomb. Hey everyone, if that hooked you, stick around because this story gets even wilder. Drop a like if you've ever hidden your real success from doubters, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. My name's Emily Carter, 38 years old, and I grew up in Seattle, Washington, in a family where military service wasn't just a job, it was our whole identity. My dad, Robert Carter, a retired Army colonel, filled our house with stories of his deployments in Iraq, his voice booming like a drill sergeant's command, making every dinner feel like a strategy briefing. Our living room was packed with medals, photos from desert ops, and endless talks about tactics and duty. My younger brother Michael soaked it all up, the golden child who followed Dad's path perfectly. Me, I was just as passionate, running along the Puget Sound shores at dawn, studying Dad's old field manuals, and acing my way into West Point with perfect scores. The day I got accepted, Dad actually hugged me rare for him and growled, "Don't blow this, Emily." It felt monumental. But everything flipped during my junior year. Intelligence officers pulled me aside, spotting my knack for pattern recognition and quick thinking under fire. They offered a spot in a classified Marine Corps Special Operations program, MARSOC, that demanded total secrecy. The cover I washed out of West Point couldn't hack it. Simple, believable, and it kept questions at bay. My family bought it hook, line, and sinker. Mom, Margaret, cried on my first visit home, her voice tight with disappointment. "How could you throw it all away, Emily? Your dad pulled strings to get you in there." I bit my tongue, unable to spill that I was actually diving into brutal training at an unmarked base in North Carolina, starting at 4 a.m. with physical drills that pushed me to breaking. Then hours analyzing intel in simulated crises, sleep-deprived, stressed to the max. It was everything I'd dreamed of. But the lie stung like salt in a fresh wound. And little did I know, that pain would build into something unbearable, twisting my life in ways I never expected. While they saw me as the dropout settling for a boring admin job at a tech firm in Seattle, something dull enough to dodge follow-ups, I was rising fast in the shadows, leading ops that saved lives. But the family rift, it grew deeper with every holiday, every awkward call. Thanksgiving dinners turned into endurance tests, Dad carving the turkey with precision, praising Michael's Ranger training, top of his class, continuing the Carter legacy. Mom would beam, her hand on Michael's shoulder, while her eyes skipped right over me, whispering to relatives, "At least one kid's making us proud." I'd force a smile, fresh from a covert intel gather in Eastern Europe, where my analysis stopped a brewing threat. But all I could say was, "Works fine, good benefits." The deception ate at me, but operational security came first, no exceptions. And here's the twist that kept me going. Deep down, I knew my work mattered more than their approval, yet the hurt never faded. It just fueled me harder. Years rolled by like that, my secret successes piling up promotions, commendations locked in secure files, while family gatherings highlighted my failures. Michael would call with his wins, ending awkwardly, "So, how's the office gig?" I'd congratulate him, hating the fakeness. But what choice did I have? One Christmas, I showed up with a scar from a car accident, actually shrapnel from a sideways op in Syria. But they just shook their heads, thinking I was clumsy or careless. Looking back, it was like living two lives, the hidden hero in MARSOC. and the family disappointment back home. My mentor, Colonel Victoria Kane, saw it early. The system's not built for women like us, Emily, but that's why we crush it. We see angles others miss. She taught me to turn underestimation into an edge, building trust in male-dominated teams. Adapting gear meant for bigger builds. By my mid-20s, I'd led teams across continents, specializing in counterintelligence that disrupted terror networks and cyber threats. But the contrast, brutal. When I earned a Silver Star in a private ceremony for intel that averted a major attack on soil, Mom was gossiping to friends about Emily not applying herself. Dad lit up over Michael's elite selections, but changed the subject on me. It built this unbearable tension, like a storm brewing, and it all came to a head at Michael's Ranger ceremony, where one glance shattered everything. Before I dive into that explosive moment, think about this. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Your wins buried under assumptions? That's where I was, scanning the crowd at Fort Benning, Georgia, heart pounding, never imagining the general would blow my cover wide open. Stay tuned, this revelation changed it all. Growing up in Seattle, that pressure to excel in the military was like the constant rain always there, soaking into everything. Dad's stories from Iraq weren't just bedtime tales, they were life lessons, delivered with that commanding tone that made you sit up straight. Michael, my little brother, hung on every word, eyes wide like a sponge absorbing it all. Me, I'd listen just as intently, but Dad would pat my head and say to his buddies, "Emily's got a sharp mind, but she lacks the grit for real service." Ouch, that cut deep, especially since I was the one sneaking his tactics books under my covers at night, dreaming of leading ops someday. Fast forward to that gut-wrenching day, I quit West Point. Mom's face crumpled when I came home, her eyes red and puffy. "Emily, how could you just give up like that? Your dad called in favors to get you considered." I wanted to scream the truth that I'd been handpicked for MARSOC's classified intel program, diving into training that made West Point look like a walk in the park. But no, the cover story stuck. I washed out, too soft, now stuck in an admin role at a Seattle tech company. Boring spreadsheets, coffee runs perfect to shut down questions. Meanwhile, Michael sailed through West Point, straight into Army Ranger training. Dad beamed like he'd won the lottery, slapping him on the back at every family barbecue. "That's my boy, top marks in tactical drills. Holidays became these scripted nightmares." Take Thanksgiving, I'd fly in exhausted from a low-key intel op in Eastern Europe, where my pattern spotting had unraveled a Russian influence scheme, potentially saving allies from chaos. But at the table, Dad carved the turkey with surgical precision, toasting Michael. Selected for advanced Ranger quals, continuing our Carter tradition of excellence, Mom's hand would rest on Michael's arm, her smile warm for him. Then she'd glance my way with that pitying look, murmuring to Aunt Linda just loud enough, "Well, at least one of our kids found their calling." I'd choke down my food, forcing out, "Yeah, congrats. Michael, office job's steady, good benefits." The lie burned like acid, but operational security was ironclad, no leaks, no risks. That disappointment in their eyes. It piled on, year after year, like layers of unspoken judgment. And here's where it got even tougher. After one brutal mission in Afghanistan, my first big twist in the field, I barely escaped an IED ambush. My quick intel call saved the team, but I came home with a jagged scar on my arm, throbbing like a reminder of how close I'd come to not making it back. Explained it as a car wreck on the way to work. But Michael cornered me in the kitchen. smirking. Sis, you're always dodging family stuff with some lame excuse. When are you gonna step up like the rest of us? His words hit like shrapnel, twisting the knife deeper. I wanted to fire back, tell him about the classified commendation sitting in a secure vault, or how my counterintelligence work had disrupted a human trafficking ring tied to terrorists. But I just muttered, "Sorry, bro, things happen," and walked away, heart pounding. In my opinion, that's the raw truth of so many American families. The drive for success blinds us to what's really going on beneath the surface, turning love into this conditional thing based on what we see or think we see. Secrets like mine. They protect the mission, but they isolate you, making every family dinner feel like a covert op gone wrong. Little did I know, those cracks were widening, setting up for the storm that would hit at Michael's ceremony. But before that explosion, my career was skyrocketing in ways they'd never imagine. Even as the family divide grew into a chasm I wasn't sure I could bridge. While my family back in Seattle pictured me shuffling papers in some forgettable tech office, clocking in and out like a drone. The reality was a world away, intense, high stakes, and utterly classified. That unmarked base in North Carolina became my second home, where days blurred into nights of grueling drills. We'd start before dawn with runs that left your lungs burning, then dive into intel simulations, decoding encrypted messages under fake gunfire, spotting threats in chaotic data streams while deprived of sleep. My instructor, Colonel Victoria Kane, a trailblazer in special ops, tough as nails but sharp as a blade, pulled me aside after one brutal exercise. "Carter, your brain's wired different. You connect dots in the dark where others see only static." Her words lit a fire in me. She mentored me through it all, showing how to navigate the boys' club, turning skepticism into respect by outthinking everyone in the room. Most folks took 18 months to finish the program. I wrapped it in 12, thanks to that edge. My first assignment hit hard, a covert counterintelligence op in the Middle East, where I pieced together chatter that stopped a cyber assault on U.S. infrastructure. Success after success rolled in. Promotions came quick. Major by 25, lieutenant colonel soon after. I earned a silver star in a hushed ceremony for intel that thwarted a terrorist plot on European allies. My judgment under fire cited as exceptional. But no family photos at those events. No proud hugs. Just colleagues who knew fragments of my story. Never the full weight. Contrast that with home life, and it was like night and day, a constant gut punch. Dad stopped bringing me up altogether. When relatives asked about his kids, he'd glow over Michael's Ranger milestones, elite quals, top performer, then pivot away like I was a bad memory. Mom's disappointment simmered in every call. "Emily, honey, when are you going to apply yourself? Michael's out there making a difference." I'd murmur thanks, fresh from leading a team in Somalia, where my analysis guided a hostage rescue that saved dozen lives. But all I could share was, "Work's busy, same old." The lies stacked up, creating this invisible wall. Michael would ring with his latest wins, another badge. Another deployment story ending with that awkward probe. "So, sis, how's the desk job treating you?" I'd congratulate him genuinely, but inside it twisted like a knife, hating the facade. One time, I returned from a hairy op in Syria with bruises I blamed on gym mishap, and he just laughed it off. "Come on, Emily, get it together. Life's not that hard." If only he knew. That gym mishap was dodging fire while extracting assets. My quick calls preventing total disaster. In my view, this hits home for so many women in the military. We're undervalued, forced to prove twice as much. Yet our wins often stay in the shadows. Stories like mine remind us that real success doesn't scream for applause. It just gets the job done, even if it leaves you isolated. But that isolation, it bred a quiet strength, pushing me further in ops while the family gap widened into something raw and painful, setting the stage for moments when the truth nearly slipped. Like that explosive Thanksgiving where everything almost unraveled. The tension ramped up like a coiled spring in the months leading to Michael's Army Ranger graduation at Fort Benning, Georgia. I'd just staggered back from a nightmare deployment in Afghanistan, where an IED trap nearly ended it all for me and my team. Heart racing, dust choking the air. I spotted the anomaly in the intel feed seconds before detonation. My split-second analysis rerouted us, saving everyone. But the blast wave threw me like a rag doll, leaving scars that screamed every time I moved. Classified, of course. No glory! Just a quiet nod from command and another medal in a locked drawer. I pushed through recovery to make it home for Thanksgiving, swapping tactical gear for jeans and a sweater, hypervigilance simmering under a fake smile. The Seattle rain pounded the windows as we gathered, but the real storm brewed inside. Dad stood at the head of the table, glass raised high. To Michael, stepping up for Ranger quals and carrying the Carter legacy forward with pride. His voice boomed, full of that old Colonel fire, and everyone clinked glasses, Mom beaming beside him, her eyes glistening. Then, as the cheers died down, she leaned to her sister, whispering just loud enough for me to catch. At least Michael's making us proud. Unlike some, it sliced through me like fresh shrapnel. That casual dismissal after what I'd just survived. Tears pricked my eyes, but I swallowed them hard, focusing on my plate instead. The conversation swirled around Michael's training stories. Dad analyzing recent ops in the news ops I'd influenced from the shadows. My counterintelligence feeding key data, he declared confidently. They should have flanked from the north, avoided that ambush entirely. I bit my lip, knowing the north was a death trap based on my verified surveillance intel. The urge to correct him burned, but silence was my shield. Then came the blow-up with Michael. He pulled me aside in the hallway after dinner. Face flushed from wine and frustration. Sis, you bailed on my last promotion party, and now you're zoning out here. What's your deal? Why can't you show up like the rest of us? Life's not that hard if you actually try. His words exploded like that IED, raw and accusing, echoing years of their assumptions. Inside, I raged, wanted to shout about the Afghanistan hell, the lives I'd saved while he trained in safety. But operational security locked my lips. I'm sorry, Michael, I muttered instead, voice cracking. Work emergency pulled me away. I wouldn't miss it otherwise. He shook his head, storming off. Whatever, Emily, priorities. Right. The hurt lingered like smoke after a blast, deepening the chasm. That night, my secure phone buzzed with urgent orders, a flare-up needing my expertise, extraction in hours. I slipped out quietly, leaving them to celebrate Michael's engagement announcement without me. They saw it as another flake-out, Mom sighing to relatives. Emily's always got her own agenda. If only they knew, while they popped champagne. I was coordinating a high-risk intel drop that rescued trapped aid workers, earning yet another classified commendation. In my eyes, this is where secrets turn toxic, weighing you down like body armor in the heat, common in American lives, where we hide work stress to shield loved ones. But it erodes bonds until they snap. The divide felt unbridgeable now. Every absence, another nail in the coffin of our relationship. Yet duty called louder, pulling me toward Michael's ceremony despite the risk, never guessing one slip would detonate the truth and redefine everything. The day of Michael's Army Ranger graduation dawned crisp and clear at Fort Benning, Georgia. I debated skipping it for weeks, knowing my presence would just highlight what they saw as my indifference to his big win. But something pulled me there, maybe a flicker of hope, or just plain duty. I arranged leave, slipped into civilian threads that let me fade into the crowd, and arrived late, claiming a spot in the back row while families crowded the front. The base buzzed with precision, flags snapping in the breeze, honor guards marching like clockwork protocols. I knew inside out from my own shadowed ceremonies. Dad sat up front in his old uniform, chest puffed with pride next to Mom, elegant in her sundress, both radiating that military poise absorbed over decades. The event kicked off with all the pomp colors presented, speeches on valor and sacrifice. I scanned instinctively, noting security posts, escape routes, habits too ingrained to shake. Even here, midway through, I spotted him on the platform, General Harlan, who'd overseen joint ops where my intel had turned the tide. Panic flickered. He knew my full record, my colonel rank in MARSOC. I shifted low in my seat, angling away like in a stakeout, praying he'd miss me. For a beat, it worked until Michael's turn. He stood tall as they read his feats, face stoic like a true ranger. Pride swelled in me despite everything. He'd earned this through sheer grit. Applause erupted, and in that noise, General Harlan's gaze swept the crowd, locked on mine. Confusion flashed, then recognition hit like a spotlight. Our eyes met. I shot him a silent plea discretion. Please. He nodded subtly, and I exhaled. But fate had other plans. As families surged forward post-ceremony, I edged toward an exit, plotting a quick congrats to Michael before bolting. The throng pushed me wrong, straight into the mix near my folks. Then General Harlan closed in, his presence cutting through like a command. Colonel Carter didn't expect you here today. The title boomed over the chatter, heads turning, including Dad's, Mom's, Michael's. They froze, confusion rippling like a shockwave. I straightened on instinct, military bearing kicking in despite the jeans. General Harlan, sir. Good to see you. He grinned, oblivious or uncaring. Last time was that Gulf joint op, right? Your counterintelligence was spot on, saved countless boots on the ground. Mom's hand flew to her mouth, gasping. Michael's jaw dropped, his new Ranger tab gleaming forgotten. Dad went rigid. Colonel, there must be some mix-up. Emily quit West Point. She's in tech admin. General Harlan turned, eyeing Dad's medals with respect. Captain Carter, no mistake Air Force roots, but Marine Corps Special Ops now. That tech job standard cover for her level. She's one of our best in counterintel. The air thickened, reality crashing down. Another officer, Major Reyes, who'd worked my Antalya extraction, joined in, shaking my hand. Colonel Carter, your protocols from that op. We've rolled them out, division-wide game changer, whispers spread. More brass drifted over, nodding. Heard about your Mogadishu analysis, shifted the whole strategy. My family stood stunned, years of assumptions crumbling like sand. Michael stepped up, voice low. Is this for real? The moment hung heavy, no more hiding. Yeah, I said simply. It's true. Recruited straight from West Point into classified MARSOC. The dropout story cover required? Not my choice. Dad's face cycled shock to dawning respect. Colonel in Special Ops, at your age. Mom trembled. All this time, we thought you failed. Hurt laced her words, but understanding flickered too. In that chaos, the truth detonated fully, no turning back. General Harlan clapped my shoulder, Captain, be proud her record's classified, but invaluable. He withdrew, leaving us in the eye of the storm, family eyes on me, recalibrating everything. The twist. It wasn't just relief, it was raw, exposing wounds I'd buried deep, forcing us to face the deception's toll head-on. The crowd thinned as the ceremony wrapped, but the weight in the air around us felt thicker than ever. We drifted to a nearby upscale spot for the planned celebration dinner, though now it was anything but just about Michael's Ranger tab. The private corner table felt like an interrogation room, menus ignored as wine glasses clinked nervously. Dad broke the ice first, setting his glass down with that precise click. So, Colonel, that's one hell of a fast track, especially in MARSOC. His tone mixed awe and something sharper, maybe regret. I nodded, voice steady despite the whirlwind inside. Unique program, Dad. Field performance drives promotions over time and grade. I've led ops across 3 continents. Mom's eyes welled up, her fork trembling. All those years we thought you were flaking out missing holidays. Unreachable for weeks. Were you deployed? The word hung heavy, her voice cracking on it. Often, I admitted softly. Places I can't name, doing work that stays classified. That scar from 2 Christmases ago, not a car wreck extraction in Kabul, went sideways. Michael leaned in, his new tab catching the light, expression shifting from shock to grudging respect. Damn, I gave you so much crap about bailing on my engagement party. What was it really? I hesitated, then shared what I could. Coordinating asset pulls in Eastern Europe couldn't delay. He whistled low. While I was toasting with the family god, I must have sounded like a total jerk bragging about my quals. A short laugh escaped him, breaking some tension, but his eyes held real remorse. You didn't deserve that. Dad, ever the old-school colonel, processed it military-style, why Marine Corps over Army? You started at West Point, I smiled faintly. Of course, that bugged him most. Joint program, but housed under Marines. Suited my skills. High-pressure analysis. Asymmetric threats. Asset handling. Some stuff I still can't detail. He nodded slowly. Absorbing security clearance. Higher than we discuss here, I replied, the implication clear. Mom set her napkin down. Voice raw. We said awful things. Emily judged you, wrote you off. How could we not see the truth spilled then? Emotions raw like an open wound. You couldn't know? The cover was mandatory. Not my call. It protected ops networks' lives. But the hurt echoed back. Years of their disappointment mirroring my isolation. Dad cleared his throat, uncharacteristically soft. I was toughest on you. Took your failure personal, like it tarnished the legacy. Should have trusted there was more. Tears tracked Mom's cheeks. We should have believed in you. Not the story. In my take, this is the heart of it for American families like ours. Misunderstandings fester in silence, but truth even partial starts the heal. Michael reached across. Things change now, right? We get the basics, even if details stay locked. I agreed cautiously. Some absences will still happen, questions I dodge. But you'll understand why. Dessert arrived, easing the intensity. But the shift was palpable, no more facade, just fragile bridges building over the gap. As we wrapped, Dad stood, extending a hand like to a peer. Colonel Carter. Proud doesn't cut it. Owe you an apology and my respect. His grip firm, eyes meeting mine squarely. It wasn't perfect. Wounds too fresh. But in that moment, the deception's chains loosened. little knowing the coming months would test if this fragile peace could hold, reshaping us all in ways we'd never seen coming. 6 months flew by like a whirlwind after that bombshell at Michael's ceremony. And there I was, pulling up to our family home in Seattle for the annual 4th of July barbecue, the air thick with grill smoke and that familiar Puget Sound breeze. For the first time in years, the knot in my stomach wasn't dread. It was this cautious spark of hope, like maybe we'd turned a corner. I carried a homemade potato salad instead of some store-bought afterthought, stepping onto the driveway where Dad's old army buddies clustered around the grill. Beers in hand, swapping war stories. Dad spotted me first, straightening up with a new kind of respect, not quite at attention, but close. "Hey fellas, here's my daughter, Colonel Carter, Marine Corps Special Ops." The words rolled out proud. No hesitation. And his friends nodded knowingly, one clapping me on the back. "Heard the whispers, fast riser in intel. Huh, damn impressive for your age." No details needed. In their world, the title said it all. It hit different, that shift. After years of being the invisible one, now I was seen, inside. Mom pulled me into a hug warmer than I remembered, whispering, "Come see, I put something together. Nothing classified. Promise." She led me to Dad's study, his domain of medals and maps, where a corner shelf now held my story. My West Point grad photo, a few declassified commendations I'd cleared to share, and a recent shot in full uniform after my latest mission wrap. "Is this okay?" she asked, voice tentative, eyes searching mine. "Perfect, Mom," I said, throat tight. "Honors the service without spilling secrets." Her smile bloomed. Real turns out she'd kept those mementos tucked away, never fully buying the dropout tale, a mother's gut. "I knew there was more to you." Back outside, Michael manned the grill next to Dad, flipping burgers with that easy Ranger confidence. Our bond had clicked fastest. Two pros respecting the grind, despite different branches. He grinned, snapping a mock salute. "General incoming burger or dog?" "Wait, General, yeah." That promotion to Brigadier hit right after a grueling op I'd led, results tipping the scales. "Both," I laughed. "Just wrapped 3 weeks on MREs making up for it." He got it instantly. No questions asked what those weeks meant, stayed between the lines. A new shorthand, born from understanding. The afternoon unfolded light. Almost normal. Talks flowed without the old undercurrents. Dad wove in my insights during military chit-chat with his pals, deferring on Marine ops. Emily's got the edge on asymmetric threats, changed how we think about intel. No more comparisons. Just parallel pride in our paths. Michael and I bantered like old times, him sharing Ranger tales, me dropping non-classified bits like adapting tactics for female leads in the field. Lessons from Colonel Kane that resonated now without the veil. As dusk hit and fireworks cracked overhead, Dad joined me at the yard's edge while I checked a secure ping, "Nothing urgent." Thank God. "All clear," he asked, gaze on the bursts rather than me, his way of easing into the deep stuff. "Yeah," I replied, pocketing the phone. He paused, then, "Been mulling what you paid for that cover, our judgments, the isolation, should have seen past it." His voice gruff, but real. It was the job, Dad parameters set, mission first. But yeah, it cost in my book. That's the American grit sacrificing personal for greater good, yet finding ways to reclaim family in the aftermath. The group photo that night Mom arranged us proudly, telling the neighbor snapping it, "My kids both serving, just different roads. No more, at least one." We stood side by side, the weight lighter. It wasn't flawless. Secrets lingered, absences loomed, but this new foundation solid, healing what deception had cracked. And as my promotion ceremony loomed, I wondered if full visibility, even partial, could finally set us free. 2 weeks later, I stood ramrod straight at my promotion ceremony, the stars of a brigadier general being pinned to my shoulders, unlike all those past ones, celebrated in sterile rooms with just cleared teammates. This time, 3 seats in the family section held Mom, Dad, and Michael. The citation rolled out in that vague special ops lingo, exceptional leadership in high-risk environments, masking the gritty details of my last op. But their eyes, they gleamed with a pride that needed no classified briefing to understand. Mom enveloped me in a tearful hug afterward. "I always knew you were special, Emily. Just didn't grasp how..." Dad, gruff as ever, shook my hand firm before yanking me into a quick embrace. "Well done, General Carter. Damn well done." Michael grinned, slapping my back. "From hidden hero to brass proud of you, sis." It wasn't a fairy tale fix. Secrets still loomed. Missions would pull me away again. But standing there, partially known at last, brought this quiet peace after years in the dark. Looking back on it all from the Seattle rains hiding my dreams, to that explosive reveal at Fort Benning, there's power in how truth shakes things up when it finally breaks free. First lesson: don't judge by the cover. In American workplaces, where folks grind behind the scenes, dig deeper before assuming someone's slacking. It might just save relationships from needless cracks. Second, secrets have their place, especially in high-stakes worlds like military or corporate gigs. But timing their reveal right, it unlocks freedom you didn't know you craved. Apply it to family stress. Open up what you can. When you can, it mends bonds faster than silence ever will. And third, that inner resilience. It's tougher than any medal or nod from others. In my opinion, like so many Americans juggling hidden talents under societal pressure, be it women in STEM, vets masking PTSD, or entrepreneurs faking it till they make it, the real win is pushing through unseen. Emily's story screams that truth always rises, even if it takes a general's slip to force it out. Trust me, I've seen it play out. Strength built in shadows shines brightest when the light hits. If this tale of family rifts, secret triumphs, and hard-won truths hit home, maybe you've been misjudged or kept parts of yourself locked away. Drop a like, share your story in the comments, and subscribe for more real talk story times. Thanks for sticking with me. Remember, your worth. It stands tall, recognized or not, until the perfect moment flips the script